live session.
Maybe. Oh my God, someone has the microphone open.
All right, we are just about ready to get started with our webinar today. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. We're really excited to be able to do this, and it's our third attempt at doing a live stream. So hopefully this one will work out in just the perfect way and you'll get the right information for you. I'm going to start in just a second. So we're going to put that timer up and then we will get started in just a moment. Thank you guys. All right, let's go ahead and get going today. We have a presentation for you today talking about essential services, great for good times and bad. And we're really talking about franchises that do well in those good times and bad. I think markets and economies are always something that people are a little bit sensitive about, and rightly so. You want to understand what you're going to get into and what you can predict as you're going through the experience of becoming a business owner in the varying market situations. So we wanted to share some information with you to help you prepare for those ups and downs of any business and of any market. So first, let's talk a little bit about who this presentation is brought to you by. This is a collaboration of a number of parties. We have myself. I've been in franchising for almost 2 decades now. Can't even believe it's been that long, but yeah, almost 20 years. And in that time, I have run franchises, I've owned franchises. In fact, I went through 4 different franchise systems and ran and owned or operated 27 locations. And through that process, I just learned what was different about various franchise brands and how it's really a different world between one and the other. And I think it's important for people to understand what those comparative things are so that when they're doing their research about a franchise, they have that behind them. I'm also the CEO of the Franchise Brokers Association. And so this is brought to you by our franchise brokers as well, who may have invited you to this educational event to help you to learn about different franchise opportunities and different franchise components that help you to be more successful in your franchise research and award. We also have Adrienne Lee with us today. She is a prominent figure in the franchise broker community. She is an awarded franchise broker, and she comes from a deep history in franchising where she's worked as the franchisor, so working on the staff, helping franchisees to be successful. She's worked as a franchise owner where she's helps people to buy businesses and sell them through the franchise that she was a part of. And then she's also helped people with career counseling in a past life as well. So she has a lot of experience in understanding the value and merits of a particular franchise system, not only in the beginning, but also at the end of its life cycle. So she's going to be taking us through some franchise concepts and helping to break those down for us. And then we also have Franchise Chatter. They are a resource and education site that provides information on the financials of a franchise. And we love them. They're a very good data-rich site where you'll find lots and lots of information. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So we have all felt this feeling of being unsafe and that feeling of this looming threat at our backs and the anxious energy that comes along with that. Feeling unsafe it's really one of our core fears that we have as people. And that's kind of a top layer of fear. And the top layer of fear is wanting approval. And then if we dig a little deeper, we'll find that the next layer of fear is wanting control. And we keep digging a little bit deeper. And the next layer of fear is wanting safety. Wanting safety is a root core fear. And we all live in the world that has literal constant threats to our safety in various forms. So just think about it. People today are putting cameras in every single square inch of their homes, even the nicest, most luxurious, most protected areas. This is the case. Why? Well, it's because people want to feel safe and they take all types of precautions to do things like cleaning for avoiding germs. Why? Well, because they want to feel safe. They're handling the basics to have shelter, to have survival, and in that shelter, and then also to protect themselves from any outside influences that could cause them harm. And if we understand how vitally important it is for people to have this, we can start to have a really deep appreciation for the types of businesses that bring that sense of comfort and warmth and security to the good people of this world. And one of our leading franchise brokers, she was just talking to me the other day, and she gave me this quote. And I just want to paraphrase what she said. She said, the reason why so many franchise buyers are interested in essential services is because they're looking for safety and consistency, and there are types of businesses that offer that. So she said that regardless of the economic conditions, customers needing these services, they have to figure out a way to have them because that customer needs them. And so they'll sacrifice other purchases that are not essential. And that holds true in any economic condition. So that's what she was sharing with me. And it's true because that type of consumer purchasing security is what makes these businesses attractive to new franchise owners. So essential services are businesses that do tend to solve some issue that's caused by a major problem or could cause a major problem if it goes unaddressed. And sometimes the liability isn't in the survival, but it's also in the protection of important assets or safety issues that, if left unaddressed, could really cause harm to the customer's physical or financial well-being. So let's break this down further and dive into some of the perks of essential services, both expected and maybe even some unexpected. So essential services are crucial during times of crisis and emergencies, whether that is nature and a natural disaster or maybe a public health crisis or any other disruptive event. These franchises, they end up jumping in and playing a vital role in supporting their communities and providing necessary services to help those individuals. This not only helps people in business, but it also enhances the reputation and credibility of those franchise businesses who offer the help. So oftentimes, franchise owners can get a lot of free press by being that solution-oriented problem solver during those difficult times. And an essential service, it tends to have really good volume and high repeat customer bases. And if you think about it, when you're offering an essential service as a franchise owner, you become this integral part of your customers' lives and they buy from you consistently. Why? Well, because in times of need, there is an emotional response that's coming from that customer. They're going through it and it's hard. So their primary goal is relief from that situation. And when your company offers that relief, well, then the customer associates your business with the source of relief. And then they refer you and they continue to support your business because you're doing a good job for them. And also, they want to avoid stress again. So regular prevention becomes a higher priority for them. There's also some regulatory advantages. Some essential service franchises may actually benefit from their regulatory advantages and in different governmental support programs. So For instance, certain sectors such as healthcare or property service, they may receive preferable regulatory subsidies or different tax incentives. Franchising is protected by an advocacy group through the International Franchise Association called FranPac. And this group is very large, very powerful, very well funded, and very strong. Now, they are lobbyists and they lobby to protect franchising, and they do that with government support every single day. In addition to that, they are highly attuned to what's going on in those government policies. And so they make franchise systems aware of the would-be regulations that may be advantageous or harmful to a franchise business. And so these franchise systems then communicate to the franchise owners in the local market, and they work together through these regulations to convert the regulations into a benefit to the franchise owners in the system. Now, these benefits can create more favorable business environments and can actually help those franchise owners to do better in the marketplace. And we really did see this in a big way during COVID because the franchise owners, they got more money and government support because they were faster and they were supported in kind of exercising how to receive those benefits. So they weren't going it alone and trying to figure it out. Essential services also tend to have long-term sustainability factor because they address, fundamental needs that consumers have. Just underline that word sustainable because these services and needs, they're not fad types of businesses. They are dependent and they're predictable and they have established market needs. They're not new industries and their customers aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They're things that have that staying power. And this can really provide the franchise owner with just a stable foundation for them to grow on and a sense of stability when they're trying to expand over time as well. And as the population grows and these essential services, they typically see an increase and are able to offer additional opportunities for scaling your business as a result. Also, the ability to perform well in just about any market doesn't just benefit the franchise owner that's doing those operations. It actually makes the business more resilient, and that makes the franchise more attractive to potential lenders. So it's easier to get a loan up front and even an expansion loan when you need or want to have one if that is a well-run service business. And there, of course, are certain conditions that apply, but the franchise that has this background and backing behind them, they tend to be able to be attractive to lenders. These perks are just a few of the really important things to help you run this type of business. And I do want to comment that the word essential services wasn't even a thing until we felt and experienced the pandemic, which was, it changed our world in so many ways. The government literally shut down businesses that didn't qualify with this tag of essential services. And it became increasingly important for companies to figure out how to get that tag. And at that moment, we as a society really understood the power of essential services and realized that in a very big and dramatic and extreme display. We saw firsthand how non-essential businesses were wiped out because they didn't serve that public need in those situations. And COVID was only 5 years ago, but our society will always remember the staying power of being essential. So when you're picking an essential service franchise, you do want to look through and check a few factors and points to see if, one, you are going towards and selecting a good brand, and two, that you're going towards and selecting a good brand for you. So we encourage you to check and verify the franchise through 3 different methods. And this is a starting point. There's a lot of other methods too, but you definitely want to check these 3. The first one is the franchise is governed by a franchise disclosure document. They have to provide a franchise disclosure document to any consumer who is interested in purchasing that franchise. And the franchise disclosure document has to be correct. And so there are penalties if the franchisor creates franchise disclosure documents with incorrect information in them. And so this document has 23 different items, and it's a disclosure that really explains the risk factors, the history, and what's going on with that franchise brand. What's unique about it is when you read these documents and you look at them regularly, you start to pick out certain trends. There are things in that document that tell you how well the franchise relates with its franchise owners. It tells you what kinds of fees are associated. It can give you information about what the financial opportunity historically has been for that franchise. It tells you about the health, the financial health of the franchise system itself. It tells you about how their package offering really is there to support their franchisees. And maybe it's really good and strong, and maybe it's not, though that information is in that disclosure document. So we encourage you to look at that because there's not many industries where you can actually see a full-blown disclosure document of a brand's history or of the investment's history and be able to sort through all of these details about the concept to determine whether or not it's a viable option for you as a potential franchise owner. And so this document, you would definitely want to have a franchise attorney review it with you, but it's got a lot of very important critical information that can support you on your journey. The next thing that we always encourage people to look at and know is that there's a cultural fit that is involved in this as well. There is a practical fit about who you're going to be working with, what you're going to be doing day to day. And there is also a characteristics fit as far as does this business model work for you, and does this business model work for your market? So when we're looking at you as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, there are things that you need to know about yourself. And there's a psychometric test that we use that is an entrepreneurial profile, and it is very accurate in the franchise industry. It's been used for nearly 3 decades of continuous success with being able to help people understand if they're a fit for a particular franchise or not. And this assessment really does tell you things like what types of employees you would be best for, what is your communication style, what is your risk tolerance, what is the culture that you would be a best fit for. And all of those things matter because you matter and your business matters. And when you're going into a partnership like a franchise, you want to make sure that you have really good alignment and fit with the parties you're going into business with. And so this helps us to cut out a lot of wasted time going in wrong directions. It allows us to be more intentional and methodical about what franchise options actually will give you what you're looking to accomplish and give you that information to research them with. And then the third thing is you always want to make sure that the market is a right market for your business and for your area. And the franchise provides territory information for you. It's important to also check that and ensure that that territory lines up with your ability to be successful in that particular market. So those are 3 things that we always encourage checking as you're going through and creating a safe and secure opportunity for yourself. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Adrienne, and she's going to take you through the next part of our presentation where she's going to go over some information about the brands. Adrienne?
Great. Thanks, Sabrina. So let's talk a little bit about the first brand, which is Purtech. And Purtech is an interesting company. It's not one that you typically think of when you immediately think of franchises. But they are the #1 hydraulic and industrial hose maintenance and replacement company. So it's a very unique company. It's a huge industry, and there's really no competition in it. So this is kind of a unicorn in what we find. But if you think about that, may not even make sense when I say those words to some people, but if you think about any equipment that has a hose on it, so could be milking equipment, fire hoses, pumps at a gas station, oil and gas has an enormous number of things involved in this, massage tables, dentist chairs, the list goes on. So your techs go on site to do hose replacement because the cost of trying to bring the equipment to any kind of shop is so incredibly high. And the cost of being down is incredibly high for the businesses that have that equipment. It can be anywhere from $500 an hour to $500,000 a day. So there's very little price sensitivity on the part of your customers. And typically you see customers first when they have an emergency. Customers that are having an emergency are not price sensitive. They just want you to get there and get their problem fixed and get them back up and running. So selling in this particular business is really all about building relationships. And they have incredible longevity with their franchisees. They still have their franchisee #1, if that tells you anything about the culture. They've got a very strong culture, and people are very happy to maintain their businesses and maintain their franchise relationships. The franchisor handles all of the training. You get a week of technical and safety training for all your employees as well, because that's really important. So your new hires really don't have to know how to do anything but how to turn a wrench. Pertec can train them everything else. The vans are built out in Florida by the franchisor and driven back by the techs and training. So that's handled for you as well. They have a 24/7 hotline that's available to owners as well as the technicians. The second week of training is for the owners and as well as sales and administrative people. And they have incredibly sophisticated systems, which they really need to have because they have over 7,000 different products or SKUs. But the system does everything for you, from ordering to spitting out reports for the CPA at the end of the year, and everything from inventory management in between, as well as dispatch for your technicians also. But one of the keys in this is that there really are very long-term relationships with your clients. This is a service that's highly needed, and you become really a trusted partner in this market, and you're there to reduce their downtime and support their operational success. So very strong franchise. Total investment ranges from 235,000 to 666,000. And let's go ahead and move to Footprints Floors, certainly a different kind of business. So Pertec, I should back up for 1 second, just say Pertec starts as a mobile business, but you can build a bricks and mortar location where equipment can be brought to. So that's part of their scalability that they have. And that's also where the investment goes to the high end of that 666,000. Now let's go to Footprints Floors. Sorry about that. And talk about the difference between something that might have that bricks and mortar location and Footprints Floors, which is a home-based opportunity. And Footprints Floors is an incredibly strong opportunity as well. They're really a one-of-a-kind residential flooring installation and restoration business. What that means is they require 0 employees, 0 build-out, 0 inventory, which really leads to a low initial investment as well as quick return on investment. And when I say that, that quick return on investment really applies to most businesses that are home-based businesses, simply because you have that lower investment, you have lower overhead, as opposed to something where you have a bricks and mortar physical location that can be in a very high rent area with utilities and all of the other overhead. So it simply takes less business to ramp up to a break-even point in a home-based business than it does in a bricks and mortar kind of location. So with this, it is a home-based business. You've got an installation business. There's no mobile showroom. You're not selling products. And that's really part of their secret sauce, is because that also means you're not really competing against the companies that are selling that product. So it's very easy to get referrals from places like Floors and Decor, which is one of the places they have a national partnership with, as well as other flooring businesses, because you're not a threat to them. But the model's really unique, and it's got incredibly strong support on the part of the franchisor with all of the elements that they bring to your business as well. And um, some of the elements that they bring are the support that they have on their advertising, Google Ads. They manage all of your social media. They manage the construction, I think it's 10 specific online construction portals that have been tested by a number of other franchisees and do incredibly well at bringing business in. You inherit the 4.8 star rating that they have on Yelp, as well as the 500 reviews. And so owners automatically receive an A+ ranking on the Better Business Bureau. Requires very minimal employees because you can start with subcontractors to perform all the jobs. And really, you're working this business from an executive management standpoint. The employees that you have, you can take the same crew that Home Depot might get or send out and get a 1-star review. You can take that same crew and get 5-star reviews. It's really about managing those crews and overseeing and follow up and follow through in the way that they teach you with the support that they give you through Footprints Floors. They also have a call center. So once the corporate team generates customers from the various platforms that we talked about, all of the calls are routed through the call center. Customer appointments are set that meet your schedule. And this really is an appointment-driven business, which means that it's a lifestyle business. If you want to block yourself out to take time to go to one of your kids' sporting events or dance recital, you can do that. And the calendar is worked around your schedule. But it also guarantees that because they have an in-house call center. You don't have a showroom to maintain. You have no product to sell. Your only job is really to focus on customer service. And that's really how they get those 5-star reviews. They've got a large number of locations. They've grown very rapidly and very successfully. And again, very happy franchisees. And the total investment with them, it ranges from $79,000 to $114,000. So as you can see, there really is a difference in that home-based business as compared to where you have a mobile showroom, mobile service with PerTech and a physical location. Both incredibly strong businesses, just different ways to go about building them. All right, our next franchise is Pride Staff, and Pride Staff has been around for a long time, and they are really the diamond standard in the industry. Permanent placement is typically a smaller portion of their business today, but they do switch depending on, this is where the good times and bads come in. Whether we are in a more recessionary environment, you tend to have more contract labor and temp to hire. In a really strong economy, you do tend to have more permanent placement. But having that flexible staff that you can also help companies as they shrink or grow depending on the economy. And so that also gives you multiple revenue streams, which balance things out. So definitely an essential industry. It's an enormous industry. I know sometimes I do use some form of staffing company because it's just too hard to handle all of your own internal staffing with the complexities of all the labor challenges that we have these days. So it's very much a needed service. And again, you become a trusted advisor to your clients. You do have a physical location, typically in a retail environment, not that your clients that are paying you to find personnel typically come to, but you do want that space for people that will be your employees, your temp employees or your permanent employees to come to. And one of the distinguishing features with Pride staff is that they don't just send out temp employees, they send out ambassadors of their brand. So they're trained before they ever leave your site there at Pride staff to be able to represent you well, represent the company well, and to make sure that the company that they are going out and performing services at wants to have them back or wants to have another employee from Pride staff come back. They have about 21 different ways that they recruit. So they do get a lot of good candidates. And well, you might think that, there's certainly a lot of people out looking for jobs and lots of companies get flooded by candidates. That's really the value that Pride staff is able to provide, is because they can match candidates to a job as opposed to having the company have to wade through all of that. The corporate support from Pride staff is incredibly strong, including having a person from the corporate office out in the local Pride staff office when you first open for the first 4 weeks, full 4 weeks. You're not required to deal with any of the administrative back end because Pride staff does all of that for you, including paying the payroll for all of those temp workers that you have out, because that really helps your cash flow. So they manage that aspect for you. It really is a great fit for executives or salespeople or marketing professional who want that business to business opportunity, dealing with business owners and other captains of industry. It's an incredibly strong franchise with a great culture, very, very strong culture. And again, very strong franchisees that stay year after year and contract after contract. Total investment with them ranges from $99,000 to $196,000. And our next company is Voda. Voda is kind of a newer arrival on the scene in terms of the disaster and restoration industry. And they have really come out like gangbusters. And it's because they're a disaster restoration company, but they have a little bit different twist. And that's that they also do floor cleaning. So all of the equipment that you really need to start a disaster restoration company for things that clean the floors and dry them out are a lot of the equipment that is used in disaster restoration. So it makes sense when you're still ramping up the business and generating leads and generating relationships to be able to get business that's very easy to get, which is the carpet cleaning and floor cleaning side. And that you can get that through the search engine optimization and digital advertising that the franchisor does on your behalf. So that leads to a strong ramp up possibility because of the ability to have those additional services that most disaster restoration companies don't have. But the restoration company in and of itself is a massive industry. Typically, it's paid for by insurance, but it can generate a lot of income, even through a number of other referral partnerships. And that's another thing that Voda does incredibly well, is help their franchisees build relationships with the people that are the first responders to those disasters, like handymen or firemen or plumbers. But the number of water damage claims alone in a year is well in excess of $100 billion. So this is an enormous, enormous industry. And what we're talking about is there certainly some storm damage, like you have your hurricanes and things like that, or floods. But the vast majority of it has nothing to do with those storms or floods. It's far more oriented towards the dishwasher overflowed or the hot water heater in the attic overflowed, things along those lines. But restoration is really about, it's kind of a speed to lead industry. So if you have people in the community that are referring business to you because they were the one, for example, stopped the overflow of water, you're getting that lead before there's ever a chance for it to go anywhere else or for the homeowner to even make a call. But Voda is very strong in their marketing system. It really is a done for you marketing system. They run the consumer marketing campaigns and help bring those leads to you. They also have a talent scout program for their investor program to make sure that you start with someone on your team that has restoration experience. So they'll still be trained in the VODA way of doing things, the VODA model of operation, but they want to make sure that you get that experience on your team because, again, most people going into not just VODA, but most franchises don't typically have experience in the industry that they're going into. They're using transferable skills, which is really what the franchisor is looking for. So, for example, with VODA, do you have the ability to go out and build relationships? And can you be kind of that mayor of the town personality? That's typically what they're looking for with VODA. Other franchises obviously have their own criteria of what they're looking for. But VODA has grown by incredible numbers, and it's because of a lot of the support that they provide to their franchisees. They also have a 24/7 national call center. They have national accounts that when you open in your city, you can get the business from those accounts. They have a lot of commercial relationship building support. For that B2B lead generation, they have a fantastic technology suite with best-in-class technology platforms and partners and proprietary software to really support your success. They also have world-class analytics and reporting. So very, very strong. And their success coaches have decades of experience. So really, it's a newer brand, although not so new anymore. But their leadership team has well over 50 years experience, and their operations team alone has over 30 years experience in restoration. So very, very strong franchise. And the total investment with them, total investment ranges from $201,000 to $357,000. With VODA, you tend to have a commercial industrial location. So you can see that kind of mid-range point as you're looking at the difference between home-based, commercial industrial, or retail bricks and mortar kind of locations. All right, so moving on to our next franchise, we have Zoom Drain. Zoom Drain is really an interesting franchise because it is not your typical plumbing company. And I had this brought home to me in kind of in spades, I guess you could say. They are not plumbing in the sense that they do all aspects of plumbing. They are drain and sewer experts. So they specialize in drain repairs and cleanings and inspections, septic tank services, pump replacements, drain care products. Their truck that they have that you see is a very specialized truck with very specialized equipment on it. And the equipment they have, most plumbers don't have all of that equipment. And most plumbers really don't want to do the drain cleaning and clearing because of that. So what I discovered as I was working with one candidate that was looking with them is it really is the claim they make really is very true that you get referrals from other plumbers if you are a Zoom Drain franchisee, because those plumbers just don't want to deal with the kind of work that Zoom Drain does. By the same token, with the equipment that you have with Zoom Drain, it makes it very easy to have techs that aren't even fully, they're not master plumbers, they're not even journeyman plumbers necessarily, because the equipment actually does the work. So it's a very simple service, but a lot of it is emergency service. They do provide 24/7 service, but that night shift is what they call their light shift. You really don't get a lot of calls there. And certainly that's not when you're getting calls. So this is still a lifestyle business because your role is still that executive owner, typically Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You do have a tech on call for that light shift in the overnight hours, though. About 50% of the business is commercial, and that is recurring business. So whether that's homeowners associations and property managers and other commercial locations. And 50% of it is if you have a plumbing problem, you have to get it fixed. There's really no choice in the matter. So with this and with the equipment they have, this is also a service that customers typically either don't want to do or can't do. So that makes it nice to have something that people literally cannot do without the equipment that you have. But it's a very simple, profitable, scalable franchise. They give you a lot of details in their item 19. I think it's over a 10-page item 19 that goes into all the details of the financials of their franchisees. And the support that they have is pretty incredible, with what they do to help you line up your trucks and get the maintenance for them and the tools and the equipment required to get the job done right. They provide everything you need for your technicians, including assistance with hiring and orientation and training and retaining great team members. And it's really not difficult to find people for this business since, as I said, they don't have to have those advanced plumbing designations as far as certification goes. So very strong franchise, and the total investment with them ranges from $259,000 to $485,000. And again, this is a commercial industrial location, and the slightly higher investment is because of that vehicle and all the specialized equipment. However, I'll also mention there are some great benefits for tax deductions when you have that equipment. So with the help of a good CPA, you can minimize what sounds like a larger investment by taking advantage of the tax write-offs. Okay, next is Enviromaster. And Enviromaster is really, again, we've got another kind of unicorn, is the only way that I can put it. With all of the things that they have to offer, that they really are a unique animal. If you look at all of the things you might want in a business, they have recurring revenue, they have multiple revenue streams, it's recession resistant, it's highly scalable, it's typically a Monday to Friday business, no nights and holidays. They have national accounts. During COVID, every single franchisee across the entire system was featured in the local media, generating over $36 million in media value. So very interesting in terms of what they had to provide there. There's no regulations in this industry, which I know interests some people, to not have government regulations to have to worry about. And there's really almost no competition. When you walk into a customer for the first time, it's not like you're a janitorial service or a pest service where they've already talked to 5 people doing what you do. There's very few people doing what they do. But it really is also a white collar executive business. All of their owners are educated, experienced, and building sizable businesses. To just go into a little bit more what they are a company that provides sanitation and hygiene services to any kind of business, but primarily their kind of low-hanging fruit is the restaurant business. And there are one of the things when you look at how people make decisions to go to a restaurant or even go to a gas station, people judge places by what their restrooms are like. And that's really where Enviromaster got started in a lot of the services that they provided pre-COVID. Is they provide the sanitation and hygiene for restrooms. It is not janitorial service, and I'm trying to make the distinction between that. It's coming in after a janitorial business has cleaned and making sure that it is sanitized, it is hygienic, and it has supplies, and that also accounts for the multiple revenue streams as well. Your employees are really easy to retain in this business. You can take typical people to do the root service and perform the work that might otherwise be working in something like a fast food or other kind of restaurant opportunity. And this gives them a steady paycheck and a real career path as opposed to shift work. They never know what hours they're going to be working and no real career path. So big difference from the standpoint of the ability to hire, recruit for great attitude and give people a real possibility at a future that they can be proud of. So it's a way to make a difference with your own employees as well as with the community you serve as well. They do have 80 corporate accounts, or I think they're up to way more than that at this point, but some of their corporate accounts are companies like Red Lobster, Texas Roadhouse, Chick-fil-A, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Circle K. The list goes on. They really do everything for their franchisees. So if there's a problem, you call the corporate office. They have a fractional sales manager that you can have manage your sales team rather than you managing the sales team, because they know that not everybody's great at managing salespeople and holding them accountable to key performance indicators. But the owner's role is to support and be that executive owner, overseeing the finances, overseeing the marketing, overseeing their employees. And it's a very, very solid business that has been incredibly strong. The number of things that are strong elements about this, I could probably go on. I think there's about 10 more different elements, but for the sake of time, I'll stop there. The total investment with Enviromaster ranges from $120,000 to $251,000. So I will say there are certainly any number of things, number of other different industries that fit the same.
Thank you so much, Adrienne.
Category of being recession resistant. And I'll turn it over to you, Sabrina, to take it from here.
Oh, sorry about that. I think the audio messed up just a moment there, but I wanted to just say thank you everyone for joining us. One thing I do want to make sure everyone knows is that when you're going through and looking at becoming a franchise owner, you have to understand that business ownership, and especially franchise ownership, is a custom experience. You really need to build for who you are, what your goals are, and what you want to truly accomplish. It's not as easy to just look at the product or the service that the franchise offers. You really have to do a deeper dive and examination into what will make you come alive and thrive as a business owner and achieve the success that you know you're capable of. So I want to just say that there are many, many different industries. This is a tiny little sampling of brands, but there's a variety of industries that we can help you to sort through and help you to understand what some of the pros and cons are of those different industries and different brands within the industries. I do also want to let everyone know that whenever you're going through the franchise process, there is financials that you can get when you get to the franchise disclosure document within that franchise system. And the franchise disclosure document is typically given on your second call with the franchise system. In that document, that's where you can get information on the financials of the franchise. So anything that you want to know about the franchise financials, there's a document that is inside of that, which tells you what the franchisor's financial returns are and what their business model is. And then there's also a document in there that talks about franchise owners and how they have been what they have achieved as a business owner. And so that is really useful information. It won't give you the whole picture, but it will give you a starting point that you can then take to go validate with whenever you talk to franchise owners, because that's part of every franchise process. You get to actually talk to previous owners and owners that are currently in the system to figure out what their experience has been and see if it lines up with the information in the document and lines up with what your goals are. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do something new. We're going to open it up for Q&A. So if you have a question, if we created any questions for you throughout this process, please go ahead and type in that chat box, and we are going to pull up the Q&A to be able to answer those questions. And again, this is totally new, so we don't know if we're going to do this right or not, but hopefully it'll work out just fine. All right, so All right, so what advice would you give to someone who is starting out and becoming a business owner? I think whenever you're starting out to become a business owner, you have to do some research and planning. No business is going to be successful when you just don't do anything. If you just kind of jump into it, you have to like really understand what you're getting into and do a fair amount of research on that brand prior to getting into it, prior to deciding what channel to go on. I really believe in people. And I know that when someone has a desire to be a business owner, that they can do it if they apply themselves and they can make it happen for themselves. But the problem is a lot of times people give up too soon. They, start on the process and then don't go all the way through to make it to achieve the success in reality. So if you are someone who wants to be a business owner, my best advice is to say, do not give up, like ever. Just don't give up. If you choose to go into the business with that frame of mind that there's no stopping you, well, then it's a lot easier to not stop you. And then the next question is there any industry that you recommend more than others? It's really an individual decision. I think industries tend to have a bit less importance than the business model has. Each business model has its own way of generating money into the business. And I think when you're looking at a business model, the thing you want to look at is the type of buyers that will be purchasing from you and the consistency of that buyer. And then I would also say looking at the amount of revenue that each individual customer can bring in. I tend to find that it was a lot easier to run a business that had consistent high dollar customers than doing more one-off smaller transactions. And yet the marketplace tends to favor the one-off smaller transactions. But when you're doing it that way, there's a lot more room for error and a lot more challenges along the way. So if you're going to be a business owner, focus on the business model as opposed to just what the industry is that the business that you're going into in that business. And what can be your greatest lesson in these years of business ownership? When I've run businesses for a very long time, and I think the thing that stands out the most to me is I've always really loved to grow, even though it is extremely difficult to grow. When you say yes to growth, you're also saying yes to extremely hard. And yet, when you do that, the person you become in the process will astonish you. Like it really will surprise you how you change and develop, and you won't even recognize who you used to be. But that courage to take a chance on yourself and to actually do it, that is hard earned and it should be respected. But it's also something that a lot of people won't do or don't do. And so if that is in your heart, then I would say, go for it, go for you, and work like heck to make it happen. What can we expect from a broker, an FBA, and when becoming a business owner? I think as we go through the process, our franchise brokers are very, very thorough. And I have personally vetted and trained and worked with the people that we allow to work with the candidates that go through this process. And so when you're going into the process, it's very thorough. They have a high level of emotional intelligence and they let you lead the way, but they ask you questions that help you reflect in the way of a high level professional business owner. And there's this book by Ray Dalio. He's the owner of Bridgewater Capital, and the book's called Principles. And he talks about how it's the importance of being able to triangulate information. And he's talking about you need a sounding board. You need somebody who has really smart knowledge and experience and is able to kind of bounce ideas off of you and help you to process information. That value of a person, an individual who can do that, it's immeasurable. And that's what our people are trained to do, is to help you to get your own answers and to get the truth that you seek in the business opportunity that you're looking for. So we do a whole host of services that are complementary to the people who we're working with, because we're paid by the franchise system whenever we have a good person to bring to their system. Just like a recruiter is not paid by you, a recruiter is paid by the business. It's the same exact setup. All right, so let's go ahead and give you guys a little bit of information about what happens next. So we have, if you have any questions, if you want to talk to anyone from our team, we have the number on the screen here to call. And you could talk to our team and kind of go through your specific situation to figure out what might be the best options for you. We also have an entrepreneurial profile, which we talked about earlier, but that thing is amazing. If you guys have not taken it, it costs us to provide it for you, but we want to provide it for you because we want you to know and see what your business strengths and weaknesses are and which brands actually support you in being your best as a business owner. And then we've also got a QR code there where you can book a call. If you have any questions at all about the franchises that we've talked about or about business ownership in general, just let us know and we'd be happy to support you along that way. I think lastly, I would just say that it's important to be courageous in anything that you do. It's important to see what kind of growth and potential you have, because there's so much more that you can become and you can do. And we often sell ourselves short. We often say that we don't have enough or we're not enough and that we can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. But in reality, you get to choose who you become. And for me, business ownership allowed me to get there. So I hope the same for you. And if that's true for you now or true for you later, we'd love to get to know you and talk to you along the way. I hope you have a really wonderful night. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.